Hi, my name's Nicholas, and I live on a 102-year-old wooden motor yacht built in 1922. In the last episode, I came down from Canada, made my way through the San Juan Islands, and met up with Tally Ho and Best Day Ever from Sail Port Townsend down in Watmo Bay. In this episode, we're going to talk through the first week of the crew party with Tally Ho, and then our trip into Canada on our way north through the Straits and up to the Broughton Archipelago. On our first official day as a group, we sailed north to Decatur Island, where we stopped at a small island community, and one of Leo's friends from early on his project on Tally Ho hosted us for a community barbecue, and we took a small tour of the island in a golf cart.
Whoa, dude!
You guys still back there?
He showed us his airplane, the airstrip, and then spent that evening playing frisbee and hanging out till well after sunset. From Decatur, we headed north on a long cruise to Shallow Bay on the west coast of Sucia Island, where the crew relaxed for a couple of days of swimming, hanging out at the beach, and cooking dinners in a group. Tally Ho and Best Day Ever both enjoyed a beautiful sail, and while Argonaut crew arrived early, we set up hammocks, and our friend Nick went free diving and brought us back some fish that he had caught.
Dude, yeah, bro.
From Sucia Island, we made our way over to Stuart Island, where we anchored in Prevost Harbor and went ashore to celebrate a birthday and have a campfire.
You could be totally looking for that. Let's finish that.
Jimmy really got me.
Look how fast you did. I assume.
After a really fun evening ashore, we made our way over to Roche Harbor, where we joined my friend Doran and his friends in a giant raft-up. We watched the July 4th fireworks and hosted a dance party, as well as played some music on the boat. That morning, my friend Doran took us to Lime Kiln Cafe for the best donuts in the San Juan Islands, and then the group of us went over to Wescot Bay for some oysters and clams.
Garlic.
Cheers, Mom.
To the past, the present, and the future. Huh? How about that?
The following day, we headed north to Canada. First, we sailed up to Sydney in order to clear customs before making an overnight stop in Canoe Bay. And the following day, we headed over to Cowichan Bay, where we stopped at the Cowichan Maritime Center, where we took some time to check out their museum, their collection of old wooden boats, and particularly interesting was all their old engines that they had.
Three good sized red rocks.
Yep. 3 keepers.
Be careful. Both hands. You need both hands.
How do you do it?
There you go.
Ah!
Tight. Strong. Isn't it crazy how strong they are?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's great. It's upside down though.
Yeah, but it's going. You managed, dude. Goddamn, this is like gnarlier than catching the drone.
That's what you want. Then
Wait, that's the meat, huh?
this is what you should get. Yeah.
This guy's poison, right?
Yeah, this goes away.
That goes there.
Clean that all off.
Yeah.
So you want to end up with like this.
All right, it's 4:45 in the morning, and we're getting up to try and make it through Dodd Narrows. We had a beautiful sunrise and perfect cruise over Lasqueti Island, where we spent a couple nights before heading north to Savory Island, which was a little bit more bumpy. Savory Island island protecting us from the wind. We went ashore for some shore time and some exercise, but my experience didn't turn out the way I planned. I am just trying to go on a run, chasing what looked like to be a trail. Instead of a run, it's become like a bushwhack, kind of getting stuck. I made it out okay and got to see some wildlife before we made it further north the next day, up in Desolation Sound, where we stopped in Grace Harbor on our way up to Teakerne Arm and Cassel Falls.
Canoe crew is like out of sunscreen. We're out of coffee as well.
You guys okay?
I don't want them rafting up. They're coming in for a raid.
Today's going to be a pretty fun day. We're heading to Estero Lake, but the first thing we need to do is go through 3 series of rapids. Now, what's wild about navigating up here in the Northwest is all the big tides and currents will go through these pinch points. As a result, there'll be some serious currents that run through these narrow areas where all the water moving from the tides is trying to get through. And so our next 3 are the Yuculta Rapids, Gillard Pass, and then Dent Rapids, passing a really cool phenomenon known as the Devil's Hole, which is a giant whirlpool that can be up to 50 feet wide. And if timed inappropriately, you can be passing through up to 13 knots of current. Now, obviously, we're trying to avoid that and go through during slack. To avoid the dangerous conditions, it's best to navigate through a rapid at slack tide. However, when traveling northbound, the tide turns in the opposite direction, where Dent Rapids turns 20 to 25 minutes before Gillard Pass, which turns 5 minutes before Yuculta Rapids. When going southbound, it's pretty easy to wait for slack tide of each of the consecutive 3 rapids and pass through safely. But when going northbound, it's impossible to hit all 3. Now, the most dangerous rapid to avoid is Dent Rapids and Devil's Hole, which can be 13 knots of current. And so the strategy for going north is to time it that you go through Dent Rapids exactly at slack, or about 5 minutes after the turn, and work backwards from that plan for when you hit Yuculta Rapids. So for a boat like Argonaut, which only cruises at about 7 knots, you want to hit Yuculta Rapids almost an hour too early. And to navigate against all this strong current, you utilize what's called back eddies. When water passes across a point, such as Kelly Point here, the water along the coastline is actually moving the opposite way and can boost you or push you forward in the direction that you're trying to go. The strategy to do this is we're going to ride what's called a back eddy, where if you hug the coastline, you can actually get pulled up to the point. And so we'll be hugging Stuart Island along the coastline up to Kelly Point, before traversing our way across to Sonora Island, where another set of back eddies will help pull us closer to Big Bay. Once we're in Big Bay, we can easily time Gillard Pass in order to make Dent Rapids exactly at slack and go safely on our journey. The plan worked and we were able to get through the rapids quite successfully. You can see here there's a little bit of turbulence, but nothing too crazy, which is exactly what we were looking for. Next up, we made it to the end of Frederick Arm, where Estero Basin is this absolutely breathtaking warm water lake where we hung out, set some more crab pots, and enjoyed a fun day swimming in the water.
Damn, look at her, huh?
Yeah, it's a boy. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, that's a good
Dungy.
one. What you got there, Patty?
We got a dungy. We got a dungy.
I got this ticket out of town. It'll take me anywhere but down. So I think
Safe through the rapids, freshwater rinse, and fresh crab from the bottom. We're gonna make some steak and crab cakes.
So next cooking steak.
Cheers.
We rafted up as usual and just swam in a pretty nice lake over there.
Play with the shoe.
After one of the best days of the trip so far, we continued northward through the straits with ambition of getting all the way to Blackfish Sound. However, the conditions started to take a turn for the worse, and so we decided to bail out. Right now we're in Port Neville, sustaining about 20-mile-an-hour winds. We came out here to duck outside the Johnstone Strait after going through some of the straits to the north earlier this morning. We did about 6 hours and nearly 40 miles. So we're gonna hunker down here tonight until the weather clears up. Hopefully it'll calm down around 2 o'clock in the morning, and so we'll have a nice early morning start to head to the Broughtons. Right now it's about sustaining 20 knots of breeze, gusting to about 30. And actually making our right-hand turn in here, we saw 44 on our port beam. Tomorrow we'll be in the Broughtons. Looking forward to seeing a bunch of whales, checking out some of the beautiful islands, and then dropping our friends Kosi and Nick off in Port McNeil. Today we're making our way from Port Neville, where we anchored out to wait out the wind from the Johnstone Strait last night. We took a northbound route to Lagoon Cove, where there's a marina that services fuel for cruisers and then the fishing fleet in the wintertime. And in the evenings they have community potlucks, where other people who are cruising can come together. It's owned by this family who took it over several years ago, and they live here full time. On our first stop in the Broughton Archipelago, we spent the night in Mimqualis, or Village Island, where there's an old abandoned village, once occupied by the Mamalilikulla people. There we went ashore and walked around exploring the old town, which included a school, several homes, and a big house, as well as some fallen totems, which you could still see the traces of. This village was estimated to have about 2,000 residents in the mid-1800s, but in the early 1900s, there was fewer than 100. And in the 1970s, most residents moved on to nearby Alert Bay or Campbell River. Right now, they are working to remove some of the growth in an effort to preserve some of their history and to create a space for tourists and visiting boaters. Next week, we're going to continue our push northward to have a fun visit in Alert Bay, which is a First Nation island just south of Port McNeil. We're going to cross Queen Charlotte Strait and prepare ourselves to round Cape Caution, pushing all the way to Bella Bella, where Argonaut served as a medical mission boat for almost 40 years. As we go north, the scenery keeps getting bigger and better, and I can't wait to share it with you. Thanks so much for watching, and please consider subscribing or supporting Argonaut as I try to share this boat with as many people as possible.